Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Soshing with Suntwe. Today we've got a nice little lineup here with David Amyot, and we'll be talking about post-COVID conservation and guiding. And if you're already with us, you know the drill. If you've done this before, drop us a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. Say hi to the others, and let's get this show on the road as fast as possible. For those of you who don't know, Soshing with Suntwe is basically, Soshing comes from a Zim slang word which means socializing, and Suntwe is my nickname from the Zambezi, which means hyena. And the reason I was given that name is a whole long story which we can go into another time. But if you're interested, you can go on my website and read it in the Chronicles of Suntwe. This live broadcast, for those of you who are with us live, is going out exclusively to the Soshing with Suntwe group. If you're wanting to get involved in the comments, guys, please, by all means, do. You're just going to have to click there's a little thing that says allow StreamYard something or another to show your name or something. I can't remember what it says, but it's there. If you're not with us live and you're with us on the YouTube video, welcome. And if you're with us on the podcast, very welcome too. I know you can't see us, but you can hear us. And if you do want to ever join us live, join the Soshing with Suntwe group and get involved in the conversation, ask questions. Please don't hold back. Get involved as much as possible. It helps us. It helps you. We're here to interact and chat. It's not a monologue. I can see there's 12 of you watching already, which is magnificent. I'm just trying to get up the video onto my other screen here, but it seems to be, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, there we go. I found it. Oh, can you hear it? Whoops, turn that sound off. Cool. So without any further ado, let's welcome David Amyot. David is a very good old friend of mine from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, and he's been in the guiding industry for a while now. He has his own company called Safari Guide Afrika. So we'll drop links to that later. So check it out if you interested in that sort of thing, and give him a like and a follow. So welcome, David. How are you doing, my man?
Paul, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, hey, we all good here in Bulawayo. It's just, I'm so excited, to be with you and be able to share, with you and everyone out there. Our day-to-day life in the bush, and especially, with today's challenges of the post-COVID world that we live in.
Yeah, so there's a couple of main issues I want to talk about. I like how you got into guiding and where you came from and what pushed you in that area is a big one. And then obviously we want to cover, the sort of anti-poaching conservation side of things, especially how COVID has affected the anti-poaching from a funding point of view and all of that. So let's just start right at the beginning. And what made you decide to go into traipsing around the bush for a living?
Well, the most extraordinary thing, I think, for me, being lucky enough to have been brought up in the bush, and mum and dad had a cattle ranch in Shangani, and with that, spent many school holidays, literally. In fact, dedicated school holidays were spent out in the bush, walking around and just enjoying the outdoors. Dad was a fanatical botanist and he loved these trees. And so with that, came, natural passion. He'd have his old, tatty old, Coates Palgrave, book, which had, he'd had for about 35 years, it was strewn in a bag, that literally mum had hand sewn out of some old curtaining. And so it was, with their passion for the bush that, kind of rubbed off a little bit on me. So, it's a lot of old friends, old family friends had been, with the department's national parks, were old parks rangers and what have you. And so for me, that was always the way that I wanted to go, was to be involved in wildlife. Didn't quite know exactly where we were going to go, but most certainly I knew that I wanted to be in the bush with the wildlife in natural places and spaces. So yeah, there we go.
It's so often the case, though, that it's something that's really bred into you from the beginning by a father or a relative of some sort, an uncle or a grandfather. It's just it's really something that, coming from a similar background to you, it's just in your blood, really, isn't it?
It is Paul, 100%.
But
yeah.
So when you did you leave school and then just go straight into it, or did you skirt around other issues before deciding that this was the way forward?
For me, I could never quite figure out exactly how I was going to do it because, in Zimbabwe, there was never any formal college, or there was never any formal way in which you could, just go in and pursue what you wanted. And so with that, Dad had an accounting practice. So I did a little bit of fiddling around straight after school with that, and, tried speculating beef a little bit here and there. And, but that was for a couple of years. And then, and with that, started to submit now my CV into wherever I possibly could, of the guys that I thought were recruiting. And so with that, I submitted my CV with Dingwall Safaris, it was called at that time, and the other was called Star of Africa Safaris, which was actually Alan Elliott. Enough, Dingwall Safaris took my CV, and about 2 weeks later, Star of Africa called Mum, and so obviously it was too late. I was already working for these guys, and so the die was cast, and we continued on in the industry.
So you were very lucky to have options. You weren't fishing too many places and no major rejections. So you put your applications in and got something quite quickly. That's very lucky.
Yeah, no, well, there was one in particular that I applied for and I didn't get.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there was one that I didn't get right at the beginning, Paul. And I got a wonderful letter. He's probably one of the world's greatest gentlemen. And I sat in the interview and told him about my experiences, this and that, and with that, he wrote a lovely letter to say, listen, unfortunately the position has been full. Thank you for your application. And so with that, I applied for other. But those were the guys that took me, and so there it was.
Well,
so
you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucky you got a nice rejection letter like that, because I'll tell you what, it's December last year, I must have sent out probably 300 job applications when I was here in the UK. And of those 300 plus job applications I sent out, I probably got 10 rejection letters that weren't nice rejection letters, and the rest just ignored me. So
yeah.
But
this is man. Yeah.
But it's also interesting because it's nice to know that it's a rare occasion. It's nice to see someone who applies for something and gets snapped up quickly. But it's very rare for that to happen. And most of the time, you forget the story of how you've had to go through many rejections before you get to the success at the end of the day.
That's a very true story, Paul. 100%. Yeah. But yeah.
So how many years guiding now?
So just over 20. Just over 20 years we're at.
Are you old enough to have guided for 20 years, David?
1999 came into the industry. Yeah, nice. Can you believe that? Yeah.
The shit part of that is that you're just telling me that I'm getting my dollar, mate.
But unbelievable. Yeah. But
I'm not supposed to be old enough to know anyone who's been doing something for 20 years.
Yeah. But that's the reality of life, isn't it? When you blink. Yeah.
In my head, I'm still 22.
Yeah, crumbs. Don't we all wish that?
Except when I wake up in the morning and my bones creak, and then I realize I'm not anymore.
Exactly right. Yeah. When you get up to do your 5BX workout plan, and you get up all enthusiastic, and then you do your ankle, and oh crumbs, having done a star jump, and you're like, no.
Yeah. I used to do 100 star jumps. Now I can do 3.
Isn't that a true story? My word.
Anyway, so tell us a bit more about your work and your company, Safari Guide Afrika.
So, Paul, about 8 or 9 years ago, when was it? I need to probably be more precise. In about 2013, okay, I found that there were some magnificent lions in Hwange National Park. In fact, later they became quite famous Cecil and Jericho, where you had the most amazing photographic opportunity presented to people, both on foot and from a vehicle. These lines were partially habituated, and so you could, not only, walk up to them. And now, Wange lines are vastly different from Mana lines and lines elsewhere. And, so I was getting all this incredible footage of these lines, in their day-to-day situation, in addition to, buffalo, elephant, lions hunting buffalo, the dogs, chasing them down in a herd of impala. So there was an enormous amount of video footage that I was getting at that time that I really felt that needed to be shared, out on social media. It was something that I wanted to share with like-minded people, to give them an opportunity back at home to experience what I was experiencing, out on foot and from a vehicle.
Amazing.
So with that, I started up a little channel on YouTube called Safari Guide Afrika, and literally it just grew from strength to strength. We moved on to Facebook. In fact, Facebook was the first platform, and then onto YouTube, and then onto Instagram. And it's just been the most extraordinary journey, being able to share with people our day-to-day, life on safari. So Safari Guide Afrika, over time, unfortunately, Safari Guide Afrika, the name got snapped up by someone else. And in that time, we wanted to now, start up our own website. And with that, started up then Safari Guide Afrika with a K, because that was the only domain that was available. So, so that's where Safari Guide Afrika with a K, came in. But
I see.
Wonderful. And then obviously with the years of guiding came a number of requests, for private guided safaris, people saying, well, Crumbs, you guided me 8 years ago, are you available to take us to here or there? And so this is where the private guided safaris and journeys now began. And so, Safari Guide Afrika being just a natural platform to work off, it's now become and evolved into Safari Guide Afrika private guided safaris, although the social media also continues.
And so, tell me, your guiding, do you take care of the logistics and the guiding for an entire trip, or do you just specifically focus on the actual walking safaris? Do you partner with accommodation, or how does it work?
So, Paul, I found out, some years ago through a lot of toil that, the best and way to do it in terms of guest experience was to rather leave it to the guys that already had camps, had areas, and could offer the best possible product in the best possible areas. So with that, I wanted to maintain to some degree a level of quality, but by the same token, be able to focus on the guiding, on my guiding, to be able to give the guests the best possible, guided safari, without taking away from their accommodation and the quality of their food and the hot showers. So with that, what I do in particular is I partner up with, lodges and camps. In fact, we have a wonderful repertoire, with the booking agents that we use. And with that, so what will happen is that people will get in touch with Safari Guide Afrika to inquire on a safari. And then with that, they will then, we will then, pass that booking on to what is called a DMC, a destination management company. And these are the people who specialize in, camps and lodges and understanding, what the particular guest is looking for. Bearing in mind, some people are looking for, everyone looks for a hot shower, but some people look for a bucket shower and other people look for a more luxurious electric shower. And the really odd thing is that, say the gas heated shower that's, built into a brick wall and the bucket shower actually, they're poles apart in terms of the type of camp that the guest is looking for. And so, we range from, your bush camp, which is a much more low footprint type camp, which is, a little seasonal tented camp, which is put up either per safari or by season, right through to the type of camp that, would be, say, classic example is the Hide, where you have, luxury accommodation, which is on a concrete slab in, sort of semi-permanent structure. So it does range, and I've never wanted to take away from the quality of that guest experience. So with that, much rather partner with people that are already in the game and understand what is needed by the guest.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about sticking to what you're good at and focusing on your strengths at the end of it, and letting those who are good at other things do what they do, isn't it? And then obviously the synergy that results is great. One of the things that I've always tried to do is look for win-win situations wherever possible, and a lot of the time people end up competing with each other where there's no need to compete. And exactly. I think the way you're doing it is obviously the most logical and easy win-win situation that creates opportunity for the most players out of one experience. So exactly. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way of doing it.
Yeah.
We've got some... Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. It's just such a joy to be able to share with people the bush, and to be able to show them the natural flow and the dynamic. And each area has a different natural flow. And so, once you start to understand the natural flow, you're able to, you're able to usher your guest, through their experience in whatever area you're guiding them in. And that's really where your focus needs to be at the end of the day. Not worrying as to whether their shower was actually hot or, obviously that's what we do as private guides. You've got to make sure that everyone looked after. But by the same token, you don't want to be personally micromanaging that. Rather, leave that to the guys, that are already there and understand, their individual function.
Absolutely.
So I can now focus on the wildlife and the wildlife experience.
We got a couple of comments here. We've got one from David McConey, and he's saying, in 1996, I was in grade 6. Wow, that's impressive. When you do what you want, it's not a job and time flies. As we get old, our minds stay young, but the body, Then we've got another one from Abby Dent. So Abby is a guide as well, but a different kind of guide. Abby is a kayak guide from Ecuador that's actually in the UK now, that I'm supposed to be meeting up with soon. I promised Abby it's going to happen. But yeah, 20 years is a good stretch. Also guided 20, nothing wrong with that, but can only do 2-star jumps now. I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, you better watch your ankle.
Abby's also saying, can't wait to check out your YouTube channel. Can it be linked later so we can check it out? So yeah, we'll put the link in the comments, or I will put it in the group anyway, and we'll feature it nicely so that you can all see it. And then Andrew McConey is asking you personally, David, what is the most memorable experience you've had professionally guiding in Zim parks or wildlife concessions?
It's a lot of people ask me that. In fact, almost on every safari around the campfire, this almost becomes a campfire story. And I honestly cannot tell you a particular time that has stood out more than any other, because each and every animal, it doesn't matter whether it's an impala, it doesn't matter whether it's a lion, it doesn't matter whether it's an elephant. Each and every animal will have a certain thing that it does, and it give you a certain impression and a certain. And I really, for me, I greatly love the elephants of minor pools. And for the reason for this is because, they are such gentle animals. There's a degree of habituation there. And so with that, they allow you to do so much more than you would say in Wange, in Gonarejo, and, minor pools is a classic example of an area where you could literally walk as the elephant's walking along. You're walking gently along with it. He walks up, and I've said this, so many times where, just giving the guest a wow experience as the elephant, stands on his back legs and pulls that old bit of branch off the tree. Obviously these bulls are under quite a lot of pressure in terms of being able to access enough nutrition. And sadly, it's symptomatic of the fact that the minor area is dying, and there's a huge shortage of both browse and grazing. But we have the benefits in terms of the fact that no elephants anywhere else in the world, as far as I'm aware, do stand on their back legs, and the elephants of Mana do. But numerous experiences. The lions, you can walk up onto them. With 20, 25 meters, you can just sit quietly and you can enjoy them as they interact with each other. The other day we had I say the other day, this was last year, where we're walking, and we have two lioness, and they've just come out of the croton, and they're walking along towards the floodplain. And I said to the guests, I said, you know what, these guys are more than likely just probably going down to the water to drink, and it's still really hot, so it's an abnormal time for these guys to hunt. Well, it was a very bad read, because actually, Paul, what had happened was, now Milo, dear Milo, who's John Stevens' son-in-law, he says to us, he says, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just follow with a vehicle and see where they go. And of course he had his Huawei P30 Pro phone with him. And the footage that he took was something that, very rare to get, was the actual lions hunting. The one lioness took off, caught an impala. The other lioness took off, caught a warthog. And here we were stuck in the croton at the back of camp thinking, well, okay, no, fine. We'll just, go and find some other stuff. And in the meantime, we watched all this begin and had this opted to, well, no, let's go find something else. And we unfortunately missed it.
That's such a shame.
And so of course, it's a case of, hey, Dave, you better get here. These lions have just killed a warthog and impala, and by the way, I have the footage. And so we got there in time to watch them feed.
Not one kill, but two. That's unreal.
It was not one kill, but two. It was literally the one lioness took after an impala, and she literally caught it in midair, and he got the ultimate shot.
That's incredible.
Caught her in midair, and the other lioness took after a warthog, and once again, so yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the question on what's your most memorable experience, it's one of those situations again where when you live in a magical world, to look at one piece of magic and compare it to the next is almost impossible, isn't it?
How do you, Paul?
The magic is there, whether it's one type of magic or the next. The magic is magic.
In the late afternoon, we'll walk with the dogs on the floodplain, right? And the dogs typically will go to one of 3 points on the Mana floodplain. So if they're not here, they'll be there or there. And so in the morning, late morning, if you found them, typically by 4:30, 5 o'clock, they're still going to be in the same place because they lie up in the heat of the day. And the trick of the Mana floodplain is to be able to get there and to be able to get the sun as a backdrop on the dogs. So as the dogs start to get up and play, they kick up all this magical dust. As they play, they kick up this fine powdered alluvial soil, which now you capture the sun through that, and it gets that beautiful gold, and when you experience that, and they're playing with their puppies and they're motivating everyone, and boom, off they go, and they're on the hunt, and now off you go, trying to catch up with them, which is physically impossible. I mean, these guys are like a jet, even in a vehicle you will not keep up. It's just a crazy thing.
You're going to have to share some of those photos in the comments as well, or in the group later after because I'm sure people would love to see those.
Paul, I tell you what, some of the photographic opportunity that we get it's just such a privilege, and it's a day-to-day basis. It's not, and interestingly, this is the same pack we spend a lot of time with that featured in the dynasties, in Attenborough's dynasties.
I was just about to ask you if it's that one.
Yeah. So there's a few different packs at play. The Chiruwe pack, unfortunately, we're 14 in number, and then I don't know if they're still about today, because the last time I saw them, there were only 3 adults and there were 2 puppies. So they got whittled out by the lion and hyena. They have an enormous amount of competition, on a day-to-day basis, and the puppies get killed. Their puppies get killed. So Paul, they have a very, very tough life. And but interestingly enough, with the demise of blacktip, because of just after the BBC documentary of dynasties, Black Tip, we were fortunate to be around with her and the pack. But at the end of that season, the beginning of the following, she disappeared. She was old, though. She was right at the end of her life. And interestingly enough, her alpha male, the very first day of the first safari of 2019, I witnessed Whiskey, which was one of the subordinate females, and a daughter of Blacktip, mating with her alpha. And this was very unusual because they're not supposed to reproduce within the family structure. And so with that, it became quite an interesting research piece. In fact, Sir Thomas, who's resident in Minor Pools and represents the PDC, the Painted Dog Conservation Project, I gave him the photographs. Said to him, Thomas, I don't know what I'm looking at here, but who is this and what is going on? And Thomas has said to me, hold on, this shouldn't be happening. Quite interesting. Let's watch it. And definitely for the whole of 2019, we really closely monitored, what was going on there. And Whiskey, interestingly enough, although she denned extremely late, successfully raised pups, of which the majority of them were killed by hyena and lions, which is an ongoing struggle for the dogs. And then with that, it's continued on. So I look forward to getting back into Minor Pools and actually seeing firsthand, the updated picture, because obviously what I'm telling you is my experiences from last year. Sadly, I haven't been able to get back in. But
it's a long time as well. It'll be almost a year that you haven't been there, isn't it?
November we started to pack up with the advent of the rains. So we haven't been able, with the COVID epidemic, it's literally killed, and everyone, fortunately, it hasn't killed the bookings, but what it's done is it's made people postpone, which is virtually, 2020 is a write-off at so many different levels. So we are preparing for 2021. And what we do, Paul, as Zimbos, we continue on, and
for sure.
we look forward. So we prepare and hope that this all lifts. And international flights today, it was announced that international flights will begin on the 1st of October. So wonderful. What a great decision by our leadership to open our international flights, and regional flights will be starting a little earlier towards the end of September.
I think I think it's great and it's positive, but we're not out the woods yet in that regard, because the borders might be open, but are the people traveling? But it's great that there was no cancellations and it's more of a postponement, but it still writes off the income earnings for 2020 really, and that really has a massive impact. How does this affect the actual wildlife with the loss of the income from the tourism industry?
Paul, I think that is probably the one question that needed to be asked the most. And the reason that I say that is because at so many different levels, there's different streams of income that come, from tourism. So principally, you have your national park entry fee. So each and every one of the camps has a social obligation to different wildlife conservation efforts, anti-poaching. It's community comes into it as well, in terms of the fact that the guy sitting in his village, gets the benefit of a school rebuilt, gets the benefit of textbooks for the children, gets the benefit of a feeding program, and all of this kind of stuff emanates from the safari camp. In addition to the anti-poaching units, which again, a certain percentage of the money from a safari will go towards that. But furthermore, we also have national parks themselves, who really are the ultimate authority. They are the guys that not only control the national parks, but also run the anti-poaching efforts, to try and keep the rhino alive, try and keep the elephant alive, in areas where the rhino have been shot at. We obviously have we have a fairly large elephant population, in Zimbabwe. that need to be kept alive. And, so national parks themselves, are struggling to find salaries for their staff, let alone the logistics of keeping a vehicle, running, being able to, resupply your anti-poaching ranges with the very basic food stuff, such as millie meal. So at many, many different levels, the guys that are running anti-poaching that traditionally would have, gotten money from external sources, well-wishers and what have you. These guys have also, Paul, these guys are in dire straits. So this is something that really I wanted to talk about this evening, because I really feel so strongly that these are all initiatives that really, really need, as much support as possible.
There's a lot of questions coming in, but we'll address them a bit later. So guys, don't think I'm ignoring you. We'll take them, or I just don't want to break the flow of what we're talking about at the moment. So just to give perspective to people who don't really know and don't understand the vastness of the Zimbabwe national parks, can you give some numbers on like how many square kilometers we're dealing with that are needing, patrols, needing protection, needing where this work gets done? I mean, for perspective, I've read somewhere that Hwange National Park itself is bigger than Belgium as a country. So when you start looking at it like that, you realize the kind of manpower and funding that has to go into managing that kind of thing. And also, if you can give us a bit of numbers regarding population densities of some of the big animals that people can relate to give them some perspective on what kind of cost is involved.
No, 100%. I mean, you look at it in the bigger picture. Hwange National Park is 14,500 square kilometers. 14,500 square kilometers. So it's more than 200 kilometers in extent from the easternmost boundary to the westernmost boundary. More than 200 kilometers.
That's amazing.
From north to the south, you're probably looking at, I don't know the exact, but I'd say probably 450 kilometers from the north to the south.
Oh, wow.
In addition to that, you've also got to consider that we have the Motetse Safari area, which is just north of Hwange National Park. And that comprises of 6 different units. Each one is, on average, about 500 square kilometers.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, 500 square kilometers. So
that's a lot.
500 by 6. I mean, that's a huge amount of area, just in terms of safari area, which goes right up to the Zambezi River. So from northernmost boundary, the Pandamatenga Road, right up, again, you're dealing with some hundreds of kilometers of wilderness area, which is also in, national parks has control over. Now, the trouble with Zimbabwe is that, so the majority of the central part of Zimbabwe is populated. What essentially happened right at the beginning with the advent of early colonization was that, all the most fertile land, essentially was farmed, was turned into farming area. But the areas around the periphery of Zimbabwe essentially became national parks and safari areas. And the reason for that is because obviously these are areas that weren't ideal for farming necessarily. They had the fly, such as the lower Zambezi Valley, which is where Mana Pools is. Up to the west, you had Hwange National Park, which is in the Kalahari Sands, which once again isn't ideal for cropping or cattle. Down in the south, you have the most beautiful park called Gonorrhea, which the place of the elephant, which is just the most stunning park you could ever visit. But once again, it was not ideal. Big problems with malaria and what have you. So it was essentially these kind of areas that people, later on, 1924, Ted Davidson founded Hwange National Park. And Paul, and with that, started up the very first, what we would call conservation effort, in terms of, getting a place dedicated, for wildlife. But the amount of land available, I can't tell you offhand the square kilometer, but it is vast.
It's vast. Yeah, it's vast.
We have one of the biggest elephant populations in Southern Africa, in Zimbabwe. And, believe it or not, Wange National Park is estimated to have about 80,000 elephants. And it's a population that's largely shared with Botswana. However, we need to consider that, some years ago, in fact, if you look at the very early records, of the very early pioneers coming through, they used to complain about black rhino charging them. So, you'd be riding along on your horse and there was another black rhino, you'd be charged. And, a lot of guys to an impala per se to say, there's actually more black rhino here than impala. This is ridiculous. Completely out of hand. In today's world, there are tiny pockets of black rhino remaining in Southern Africa. In fact, there's about 3,500 black rhino remaining in the world right now. And so, at one point in time, 150 years ago, there were more black rhino than impala in some areas. And in today's world, there's actually a very small pool of them. And, so we do need to take careful consideration of the elephant. And one of the biggest problems, of course, Paul, is encroachment on wild spaces, human encroachment on wild spaces. As the human population is growing, so we have more and more human wildlife conflict along the boundaries of the parks, and then furthermore we also have obviously with that more and more pressure to come into the parks. In fact, today we have just received the most wonderful news. This is something that I've been monitoring very closely, which has been the proposed mining operation in Wange National Park, which is in the northern reaches of Wange National Park. And thank God today, the Speaker of Parliament, in fact, that was yesterday afternoon, the Speaker of Parliament gave a little speech and to say that, the Wange mining project, in fact, it's been outlawed, any mining within any national park in Zimbabwe. So thank God for that. The parks are saved for the time being.
That's magnificent news. Just another bit of perspective on that. I just did a little Google search, and you said Wange National Park is how much? 15,000 or 14,000 square kilometers?
14,500 square kilometers.
Okay, so the whole of Wales is 21,000 square kilometers.
My word. Yeah.
So that gives a bit of perspective. Well, that's fantastic news about Wange. That was I mean, when I saw the accusation made on Facebook, I was devastated and I couldn't believe my eyes. Oh, well, I could believe my eyes because I've seen a lot of stupid shit happen in Zimbabwe. But I'm very happy that the whole thing's been overturned and made outlawed. But yeah, hopefully it's, as Daniel's saying here, is it written in stone? I mean, who knows? Like what is and what isn't written in stone.
You know what? I think we have to consider that there was a heartfelt appeal put out by Blessing Munyunyiwa, who's a major stakeholder in the industry, but also he has a true love for Africa. In fact, his business is called Love for Africa, and the man is passionate through and through. And Blessing actually put out a message on social media, an open message to the president, requesting that please, for our children's children, this needs to stop. And the very following day, it did. Look, generally speaking, when the Speaker of Parliament stands up and says, no, the mining is outlawed in the national parks, Daniel, I would say that you can probably set it in stone,
Well, let's just hope. And I think the general outcry from the public showed that I don't think there was anybody that was on sides with it. So I think they realized that there was no way to get around that one, and that if they tried to do that, not only would there be a local outcry, but it would be a massive international one, because as much as Zimbabwe's humanitarian rights get ignored by the international media, they like to jump on the the animal rights bandwagon quite quickly. So I think that would have been a quick way to bring a bit too much attention to the country. And, you know, some people don't like too much attention at the moment. So
no, sure.
Yeah. Going back, I want to do some of these comments because they're starting to pile up, and we've already been going for 40 minutes, which is crazy. You know how it goes so fast when you've got a lot to talk about and have too much fun. Abby wants to know, David, what would be one of the hardships you would deal with there, or the biggest challenge? But I'm going to couple that comment with another one I saw from Ashley de Bourbon, because I think they are going to be related. Has there been a notable increase in poaching during these uncertain low tourism months, and how can we directly support anti-poaching teams?
Okay, so Ashley, if you are in, so there's some wonderful anti-poaching initiatives. In fact, there's more stuff going on out there behind the scenes than what we actually realized. There's the most wonderful project called the Zambezi Elephant Fund. Now, the Zambezi Elephant Fund, is principally headed up, by some wonderful guys based in Harare. The principal family being John and Nikki Stevens, and they have a marathon every year. In fact, no, this is incorrect. For the last year and the year before that, the New York Marathon, any proceeds that went from the New York Marathon was channeled to the Zambezi Elephant Fund, which was such a wonderful windfall for the guys.
That's
and
amazing.
The Zambezi, once again, they put a lot of focus on backing up national parks, which is such a wonderful and fresh idea, because a lot of people in the conservation world feel that they should do stuff completely alone and would rather spend the money where exactly they want it to go, where these guys have said, no, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to work with national parks. If the scouts, if the rangers, anti-poaching rangers who are on the ground being bitten by tsetse flies all day long and are looking for the poachers that are hunting the elephants, well, what essentially now happens is that they are the guys that are on the front line. They need the necessary training. The Zambezi Elephant Hunt backs them up on that and assists them with ammunition for shooting courses to teach the guys how to shoot. So in the event, because you understand that the AK-47 that the poacher carries is not only for for the animal, but also for the anti-poaching teams too.
Absolutely.
You have SAVE, headed up by Nicholas Duncan. This is something that this is an organization that we got involved with a few months back, where we ran a thing called Rave the Rhino, and what we did was we did a live stream music event, using some local DJs with a rave, and it was wonderful, to see everyone involved with that. And so there's all kinds of stuff, but SAVE, the African Rhino Foundation, headed up by Nicholas Duncan, they're in Perth. But Nicholas Duncan, once again, deals directly with national parks and assists them with so many different initiatives. In addition, are you there, Paul?
Yeah, I'm there, but you've frozen. Your stream's frozen for some reason, but I think it's coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
You're back.
You got me. Okay. So in conjunction with Dunbari Trust and what have you, we really there's so many different initiatives. So what I can suggest to you is try as best you can to channel your money into the project that you feel where your passion lies. There's the Painted Dog Conservation Project, which is headed up by Peter Blinston, based in Langa National Park. They have introduced a pack of dogs into minor pools, but they also principally have had a researcher on the ground there, non-stop, trying to better understand what's happening with the dogs. So you've got Painted Dog Conservation, you've got the Lion Project, which is headed up by Wild Crew and Dr. Andy Loveridge. Now, Wild Crew is sponsored by Oxford University, and they specialize in the in the lion stuff. So yeah, there's so much out there. I really can't finger an individual project, but I most certainly would encourage you, where possible, to support any initiative that you think is that's great.
Absolutely. And I think where you stressed support an initiative that speaks to you is important, because there are a lot of initiatives. It's hard to choose, but and if you support one that's really speaking to you and has a cause close to your heart, then you'll feel like what you're doing is in line with your ethics and your values. I think that's more important, so that you feel like you're not being taken advantage of. I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Yeah. As long as you feel like that organization is in line with the values and ethics that you feel, then they're all good. They're all trying to do something good. They're all doing good. They're all equally deserving of help and finance as the next one. They're all doing different work in different areas. There's no greater or lesser one.
Another one called the Boomy Hills Anti-Poaching Unit, Papu.
Oh yeah,
they are right on the border with the Matusadona National Park. And they spend an enormous amount of time, darting elephants that have walked through snares, darting lions that have walked through snares. They get and principally they do spend a lot of time covering ground, not only on the lake, itself, pulling up kilometers of gill nets, from illegal fishing, but also covering ground on land, looking for the elephant poachers. So it's just there are so many that it's hard to single out an individual one. They all do great work.
Obviously, like me, some of the ones that are close to my heart, Bapu is one of them, because I have mates who are involved with it. Vapu, Vic Falls Anti-Poaching Unit, headed by Charles Breitenman, is very close to my heart, because I lived in Vic Falls for a long time. I know Charles. He's a hell of a good guy. There's Vic Falls Wildlife Trust. There's IAPF, International Anti-Poaching Foundation. There's just really so many to list that you just gotta look at something that's close to your heart, do a Google search, look in the area, do a bit of homework, see what they're doing, and see if it's something that resonates with you at the end of the day.
Exactly, that's the way to go.
Let's do some more. We've got about 10 minutes. I mean, it's not a hard 1 hour, but I try to keep it around 1 hour, because
we can talk forever, Paul.
You and I, we can talk for days, bro. So but also I think we've covered literally a third of what I wanted to cover. So I think you and I are going to have to do this again sometime soon. I've said this to a few guests, but it seems like the hour goes so quickly, and with the interaction and the questions from everybody else, the time goes pretty fast. So I would love to have you back at another stage as well. Going right back, we're going to just chuck in some of the questions from the watchers, from the viewers. Going right back to this is from Togolosh Zim. And he says, if foreigners come visit under normal circumstances, when is the best time of year to visit and where? To add to his question, what areas do you operate in primarily? Do you have specific specialty areas, or do you operate the whole country?
For me, Paul, I operate in the areas that I know. And I'll tell you what, the Matopas for me is home. Manapool is home. Whange National Park is home, and Gonarizhou. I love Gonas. But really, I simply like to work the areas that I know, to enhance guest experience, to give people the best possible, experience. Because, you must understand that, with guiding, there's more to it than the wildlife. There's the history, there's the vegetation, there's the geology of the particular area. So there's so many different facets to an area that you need to understand. If you don't know the area, you're just not going to be able to represent the area in the best possible way. So with that, what I would suggest is minor pools in the month of August. And I hate to say this. In fact, I'm sure there's booking agents out there going, no, you didn't just say that, because that is the most chaotic time of the year. for anyone. In fact, the industry explodes in the month of August. But I would say, your late dry season is by far the best time. And of course, minor pools for me, because at that time of the year, all the pans deep in the Jess, out towards the escarpments are now dry. And so with that, you have a migration of big herds of buffalo. You have the elephants, and everything else. Hippos start to now come inland, looking for vegetation. So you have an enormous amount, in fact, so much more than you would ordinarily. The lions will follow the buffalo out of the Jess. So you have a vastly different dynamic, from the month of August, September, than you would at any other time. So
Absolutely.
from August, October is too hot. It's just too hot. In most
Suicide
areas.
month, mate.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, minor, it'll get to 50 degrees. And with that high humidity, it just becomes an absolute cooker. So I would definitely say August, September.
Okay, great. So here's some praise from a past guest and a good friend of mine, Sisa Mtunzi, saying Dave is one great safari legend, masters of the bushcraft. I used to bump into him at Cinematella Gate when he was with Camp Wangi. His persona is great and he's very approachable. Sky's not the limit. Aim yonder, bro.
Sisa, how's it, bugger? Lovely to see you there. Brilliant, man.
But to add to that, Sisa, one of the things that I've always taken from Dave is his absolute enthusiasm and smile. Like wherever this guy goes, he brings a smile to people's faces. And that's a massive quality that I take from you, bro. I really hats off to you for that.
Paul, thanks, bugger. Yeah, it's all good, man. We do what we do, hey? In the same as the work that you're doing is invaluable. Promoting Zimbabwe. And that's where your heart and your passion lies, is right here in Zim. And it's just amazing. And the work that you do, principally, behind the microphone there, that's what helps to drive Zimbabwe and create an awareness that people otherwise wouldn't have. So awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah. We've got another comment from Brito Maseko. He's saying, Brito was also a past guest. David Amyot, It's been long. Good to hear the great news you're sharing. Thank you, gentlemen, for such conversations. Our efforts in the conservation will surely come to fruition. Absolutely. And then there was another from Abby. It's just, I'm going all over the place with these comments at the moment. She said, that's amazing. So happy to hear help if directed in that area. It's been a really hard thing to see the amount of poaching. Definitely what I was wondering, alongside Ashley's question, alongside the YouTube channel, I'm guessing these initiatives will be posted. I mean, we can't post all the anti-poaching initiatives. Maybe Dave will put in a couple of his close to his heart, but there are literally hundreds to choose from. So it's got to be a Google search and a bit of a, look and see what speaks to you type of thing.
Yeah. Maybe just off the top of my head, I mean, we've got wonderful stuff going on. We've got the Dunbari Trust. And these are guys that are principally working in the Matopas with the rhino, doing monitoring and surveys. We've got the Zambezi Elephant Fund, ZEF, which is just, again, an amazing initiative that's really assisted, the Departments of National Parks in terms of support and a vehicle. So you can put your money there. You've got Boomy Hills Anti-Poaching Unit. The Ome is probably one of the hardest hit areas in terms of poaching in Zimbabwe. Mark Brightman heads up VAPU, Boomy Hills Anti-Poaching Unit. You've got VAPU, which is Charles Brightman, who Paul mentioned earlier. I mean, Charles Brightman does amazing work in the Victoria Falls. And although we all assume that, Victoria Falls is a tourist town. And so with that, the wildlife are in good shape, but actually not. They're under enormous amount of pressure. And so Charles Brightman, again, dedicates an enormous amount of time and resources to try and keep the wildlife going. And obviously not in Victoria Falls town, but they're their work extends right into the Matete Safari area. So, it's all worthwhile projects.
And also this anti-poaching work it's not glamorous, it's not romantic, it's thankless, it's hard, it's toil, it's massive, massive, massive hard work that goes into anti-poaching and these jobs that these initiatives do. And another hats off, bit of respect to all the guys and people on the ground who are doing this amazing work, because it really is tough out there in the sticks, doing lots of mileage on foot under harsh conditions, in dangerous conditions a lot of the time. Sometimes poachers shoot back too, and it really is a vocational type thing, a profession of passion, and it's incredible what they actually do. It's unbelievable. We've got some more high praise coming from Brito. David, your passion is amazing. I remember the safari walk we did after an Ace Guides emergency course together at John's Camp Mana Pools.
Yes. Oh, Brito, you are amazing, my friend. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. The amount of knowledge that you impart. I can remember sitting, with Brito doing his thing. He's an amazing, just the most amazing, advanced first aid course that he runs, in conjunction with Mark, and just amazing. And I can remember sitting with the guys, and suddenly, there's someone that's been injured, and this is right at the conclusion of the course, and everyone runs around and does their thing, and just you just create so much awareness. And I'll tell you what, because it'll probably be the waiter or the first respondent, could be virtually the guy that cuts the wood, and those are the guys that you are teaching the first aid to, which is just such value.
It is valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start winding down, but I want to just give you a couple of fun questions. One's come through from Baron Pretorius. Just a couple of fun questions just to lighten the mood a little bit as we wind down and close things up. If anyone's got any burning questions that they really want to ask, chuck them in now, and we'll try and get those in at the end as we wind this thing down. But the first one we'll take is Baron's one, which is what's the closest encounter you've had with one of the big five?
Okay, so one day on a walk in Wanga National Park, I had a lady and her 14-year-old daughter. She was an English lawyer, and I'll never forget seeing this bull elephant. He was seemingly fast asleep out by a set of pans, and I recall thinking to myself, well, there's something very deeply troubled about that guy. So we won't get too close, but we'll go up and have a look at him. So I parked the vehicle some distance away, downwind, and we walked in. And I got up to the guy, and there was something again. Those alarm bells start to go off. And so with that, I said, you know what, we probably better start backing off. And so with that, I backed off to about probably 35, 40 meters or so, because I could see that this guy wasn't square. We'd gotten up to about 10 meters. And anyway, I gently backed off. And then I started to talk normally. Now, often we as guides will use our voices as a means of gauging the animal's responses and understanding better what the individual animal is up to. Some of these elephants, in Wanga in particular, haven't seen people for months on end. And so with that, in fact, may not see people for years on end, because it's a huge amount of area shared with Botswana. And so the moment I started to talk, this elephant high-stepped, and he came. And literally, when I say that the charge, the dust flew off that guy's back, and he turned at about 6 meters.
Shit.
And I'll never forget, and literally I was just on the verge of pulling the trigger. In Zimbabwe, we put a lot of emphasis on safety. And so our examinations are very regimented. It's a 6-day practical examination, and the examiners put an enormous amount of emphasis on safety and the candidate's ability to defend him and his guests. And so with that, I was just about to shoot the elephant and turn at 6 meters. It turned out, because it didn't make sense. An elephant of that age, you're looking at a 45-year-old bull elephant. It didn't make sense that he would have reacted that way. Even the bulls in must, they don't do that. And it turned out that guy had been gut shot by a poacher maybe days before. We didn't know. So the guy was in dire straits. He was in an enormous amount of pain. And so with that, we unknowingly, so these are the dangers with a walking safari, but don't miss out on it because it is the most amazing experience. It removes you. A walking safari will remove you from your comfort zone of the vehicle, and you now find yourself completely exposed. And that's the magic of the walking safari. You start to use other senses,
So I've got a greeting here for you. I want to see if you can guess who this is that's saying hi. Saying hi, Mr. Aim Straight.
Oh my word, Mr. Lawrence. Is that Anthony? Is that Anthony Austin?
Ah, it's Anthony Austin. Well done.
Anthony, how are you, bugger? Lovely, lovely. So glad you're on the show, man. Hey, very cool.
There you go. So here we've got one from Brito again. What's your favorite national park in Zimbabwe? Just one. You have to pick one.
Brito, where we last met, and I don't think I need to give you another clue, but the last time that Brito and I were together was at John's camp in Manapools, and that is the jewel in Zimbabwe's crown of parks. Manapools is beyond shadow of a doubt probably the most natural of the wild areas, with the most incredible wildlife, and with their degree of habituation, you will never have an experience on foot, with an animal like you will in Manapools with members of the Big Five. So definitely, without a doubt.
So I'm going to make a declaration here right now. Brito, Cesar, Dave, all my Safari Guide buddies. I'll talk to Dean as well, Dean McGregor, see if he's on board. But I want, when I visit back home next, all of us together as bros are going to go on a trip to Mana for 1 week or 5 days or so. And it'll just be a complete dog show of all you hard in the dust guides and me, and we're just going to go and enjoy the bunch of us together.
Or we'll do this. We need to do this.
Yeah, I think it'll be lekker. It'll be a nice exercise of sharing resources, sharing ideas, being in the environment together, being in the bush together, feeding off of each other a little bit, rekindling our love for the bush. And I think all of us together will have a magnificent time out there, bringing our own personal nuances and touches to each other. And sounds like we're going to go in the bush and touch each other. That's not what's going to happen.
I think there's no value better than people of a like-minded nature sharing information. And this is what I love about guiding, Paul. You have people that have a passion for the bush, and you take them out. They've been to the Kruger, they've been here, they've been there, but they now want something different. And these are people that are well-traveled, so they understand the bush. And to be able to take them out and to be able to share with them and learn from them as such, I never look at a person, say, from the States who have come from the States, lived there their entire lives, and I'll never say, well, you know what? No, you're from the States. If anything, I love to learn from my guests, and vice versa. We just have an exchange of information, and it's the same with you guys, Paul. Oh man, there'll be a lot of stuff that I definitely will learn from you, and in fact, how to keep alive in hippo-infested waters, I think, will be one of the first questions I'll ask you.
Mate, the only stuff I'll teach you is how to act like a Muppet and get away with it. So here we've got Brito saying, Paul, your declaration has been accepted. I'm excited and happy to be the medic on standby. That's fantastic. And then Val Chikali is saying, you left us out. I hear the bonding is going to happen. So what we'll do is we'll go and bond and make an effort of the whole thing. And then we'll open an invitation to everyone in the group who wants to come on a safari with a lot of us. And we'll make a complete dog show of the whole thing.
Lovely.
We can do a big guided safari for everyone in the group who wants to join.
The beauty of minor pools as it stands is that you can buy a walking permit and anyone can walk in minor pools. I personally wouldn't walk minor pools without a rifle because you're dealing with animals that may have an objection with you being there. But right now you can officially go to the office and say, right, this morning I'm going for a walk. This is the area I'm going to walk, and you can be completely free to walk the floodplain. And so, definitely, Paul, 100%. When we can go and have a gas, obviously, I'll take all the necessary equipment, but we'll go and have some fun with that, and to share with guys like Brito and Cesar and Dean McGregor. My word, wow! And if we can throw Dalzell in the equation.
I know. Andrew Dalzell has to be there, so it's a compulsory. We'll bring that's Andy, Dean, you. Yeah, it's going to be lekker. We'll have
what legends, Yeah.
We'll make it happen, and it hopefully, if not next year, it'll be the year after.
Yeah.
We'll leave you guys next year because you guys are going to be busy because of, and you need to put some coin in those purses again from this drought.
We need catching up,
after next year, when everything's going again, then we'll celebrate with our trip the following year. But Abby's saying here that we better hide the dates and the time and dates that we do it, otherwise the entire chat group will show up at the airport with binoculars. It's lekker.
Lovely.
And Beatrice Leman says, "Great, I'm in."
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna put it to sleep there. And Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, mate, and it's so good to connect again and chat and that enthusiasm, as always, has left me with a smile on my face and a good mood for the rest of the day. So that's going to be wonderful. But seriously, we need to do this again. There's 1,000 things we haven't covered, 1,000 things we still need to talk about. And like we said earlier, you and I, we can talk from now until next week, and we still won't be finished. So
it's all good, my friend. It's all good. It's never time wasted.
For sure.
To share the bush with like-minded people, like I say. I mean, there's just no better value than to me. I love it. I love it to be able to share. So anytime, Paul, anytime. Love it.
Man, that's awesome. I share the same sentiment. It's all about sharing the experience and learning and growing off each other. So with that said, thank you again, and good night, everybody. And thank you to everybody who's joined us this evening. I'm just going to give you the closing speech that I give every week. We're here every single Wednesday, same time. Although when the clocks change here in England, I'm probably going to change the time a bit. I'd like to hear from you guys what you think. I think it's probably going to move up to 8 p.m. in Zim time because I need more time. When the clocks change here, it'll be a 2-hour difference, and I can't do this at 5 o'clock because I only finish work at 5. So I'd have to move it to 6 o'clock here, which would be 8 o'clock for you guys. And I think a lot of people said 7 p.m. is not a great time because of kids and bedtime and all that sort of thing. So let me know what you guys think. Comment and tell me what times you think would be a good, but I'm going to work towards 8 o'clock. So it'll be same time every week, different guest, different topic. Next week, we've got an interesting guest from Bulawayo. His name's Corey Schultz. It's a very interesting topic. I'm not going to give away too much now. But yeah, if you find value in this, please share the YouTube link and the podcast link with your friends and family and other people that you think might benefit from listening to this. Invite friends and family into the group if you think they'd want to interact in it, because I'm keeping the interactive live feed specifically for you guys in the group. Post in the group, discuss with each other. The whole point of the Soshing with Suntwe group is to be able to talk and share perspectives and have intellectual debates about things without getting emotional and heated, and actually have good discussions and learn from each other. If you want to, I know I promised this last time and I haven't done it yet, but I'm intending on having a discussion like a thread for each guest, where we put information about that guest and he can actually comment and reply to your comments directly on each thread. So I'll start doing that probably from tomorrow. But yeah, thanks for coming. Thank you for the support. It's been amazing. We're 20 weeks, 19 weeks, 20 weeks. Is this episode 19, I think? Oh, it's episode 19. So 19 solid weeks we've been doing this, 19 episodes. It's been amazing. It's something that I started on a whim because I thought it was going to be fun, and it's been amazing. And so for 19 weeks solid, we've been going, and I don't see any end to it. So yeah, thanks for all the support and getting involved, and everyone who actually interacts. It's an absolute pleasure. David, thank you again, and good night to everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.